What if I told you that there exists a place in our solar system where the pressure is so intense that it would crush a submarine instantly, where the temperature melts lead, and where sulfuric acid rains fall from the sky? This place exists, and it's called Venus. In 1982, a Soviet probe managed to survive only 127 minutes in this hell before being completely destroyed. But here's the question that will change everything. How long would you survive if you were transported to each planet in our solar system? And more importantly, what would kill you first? Today, we're going to take a deadly journey through the most hostile planets in the universe, discovering exactly how much time you would have before inevitable death. Get ready, because some of these discoveries will shock you completely. Let's start with the most brutal planet of all, Venus. If you appeared instantly on the Venusian surface without protection, you wouldn't even have a chance to see what's happening. Death would be almost immediate, but not for the reasons you imagine. It wouldn't be the extreme heat of 878 degrees Fahrenheit, nor the sulfuric acid clouds that would kill you first. It would be the colossal pressure, equivalent to being submerged 3,280 feet deep in the ocean. Your body would be crushed instantly. But let's be fair and equip you with a spacesuit of the same technology as the Venera 13 probe. Welcome to hell. The first thing you would notice would be a dense yellow-orange twilight around you. The thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide and sulfuric acid clouds heavily diffuses sunlight, plunging the planet into perpetual twilight. And honestly, that's actually good, because there's not much to see anyway. Just arid plains covered with volcanic rock, cracks, and stones. Your spacesuit would be reinforced with durable titanium plates, capable of withstanding 90 atmospheres of pressure. This adds considerable weight, and you would feel it here since Venus's gravity is only 10% less than Earth's. Your suit's thermal protection would have to be the most advanced possible, with multi-layer thermal shielding and an outer layer of silicon carbide. But even with all this protection, after a short time, your condition would begin to deteriorate. The cooling system would be the first to fail. No matter how advanced, it simply couldn't withstand such extreme temperatures. Your suit would begin overheating rapidly from the inside, with no place to hide. Heat stroke would set in, and you wouldn't survive even 1 minute. Now let's go to the next deadly destination, Mercury, the planet closest to the Sun. Your survival would depend completely on which side you chose to land, the dark side or the side illuminated by the sun. The main problem is that Mercury has no atmosphere, which means heat distribution is extremely uneven. On the dark side, you would find yourself on a surface covered with craters, cracks, and dust, dominated by gray tones, with darkness broken only by the faint light of distant stars. With your ultra-protective thermal and anti-radiation suit, you could take a short walk on Mercury's dark side, but waiting for the sun to rise would be a fatal mistake. When the sun appeared, you would notice that it looks completely different from how it appears on Earth. Instead of the usual warm yellowish tone, it shines with a blinding white intensity. The temperature inside your suit would inevitably rise, approaching critical levels. There's no place to take shelter, and waiting for nightfall would be useless. Once the sun is risen, darkness wouldn't return for another 29 Earth days. Within minutes, solar radiation would penetrate your suit's electronic systems, disabling almost all vital functions. Soon after, your internal organs would begin receiving lethal doses of radiation and would begin to fail. Even if your oxygen supply were intact, your cooling system would have failed completely. But what about Mars? Would the red planet be more promising? Upon arriving on Mars, you would find yourself in a landscape both familiar and alien, reminiscent of desert regions on Earth, but with an unusual atmosphere. The sky has a pale orange tone, and the plains around you are scattered with rocks and boulders. You would be lucky to arrive during a Martian summer day, when temperatures at the equator can reach a comfortable 68 degrees Fahrenheit. For now, your suit's thermal protection system would remain inactive. However, it would soon become essential,
as nighttime temperatures would plummet to -94 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite your heavy suit, movement here would be relatively easy due to Mars's lower gravity. Nothing would seem to prevent you from settling in and building a small underground shelter. However, this is far from an ideal plan. The longer you remained on Mars, the more its low gravity and intense radiation would weaken your health. This dangerous combination would slowly degrade your circulatory system, increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, and even impair brain function. Now let's go to Jupiter, the deadliest gas giant. Even before reaching the planet, you would face its magnetic field, which extends almost to Saturn's orbit in the opposite direction. This field, 18,000 times stronger than Earth's, captures vast amounts of solar radiation within its magnetosphere. Only the thick titanium hull of your spacecraft could protect you from its effects. Descending into Jupiter's atmosphere, the first thing you would encounter would be ammonia clouds located 39 feet above the planet's theoretical surface. The temperature here would be below -148 degrees Fahrenheit. Although unimaginably cold, your suit would be equipped with thermal insulation, and you would quickly fall beyond this freezing layer. In 1 minute, temperatures would begin to rise, and atmospheric pressure would approach that of Earth's. You would be almost at Jupiter's surface, but what would await you next would be catastrophic winds reaching 373 miles per hour. The temperature would have risen to 302 degrees Fahrenheit, and the pressure would be 24 atmospheres. This is the same depth where the Galileo probe stopped transmitting. You would last only 3 minutes since entering Jupiter's atmosphere.
And what about Europa, Jupiter's fascinating moon? This time you would be firmly on solid ground. Under your feet, there would be a thick ice crust 9 to 15 miles deep, hiding an ocean of liquid water. Although Europa has plenty of oxygen, generating about 26 pounds of oxygen per second, as radiation from Jupiter splits water molecules on its surface, you couldn't breathe it. Radiation would soon destroy your suit entirely. You would survive 15 minutes on Europa, the same time you would last in other deadly locations. Saturn would present similar challenges, but with even more devastating winds, reaching 1,243 miles per hour. You would manage to survive 5 minutes falling into Saturn, slightly more than on Jupiter. But Titan, Saturn's moon, would be much more promising. It's the only satellite in the solar system with a dense atmosphere. Stepping on its surface, you would no longer be in infinite free fall. Although a thick yellowish haze would prevent you from seeing Jupiter or other celestial bodies in the sky, moving around Titan would be relatively easy, since its gravity is about 1/7 of Earth's. You would discover small lakes similar to those on Earth, but you wouldn't think of touching them. Instead of water, it's a mixture of methane and ethane. You would survive 1.5 hours, much better than a few minutes falling into Saturn's abyss. Uranus and Neptune would present similar challenges to the other gas giants, with deadly winds and impossible conditions to survive. Finally, we come to Pluto, the dwarf planet and final challenge. Despite its small size, Pluto has a tenuous atmosphere, offering slight protection against radiation. Stepping on Pluto's dark side, after just a few minutes, the extreme cold would begin to degrade your suit, making it brittle. A sudden rupture would occur, and you would perish instantly. Your time on this frozen planet would last only 8 minutes. So what's the verdict? Of all the planets and moons we visited today, Titan proved to be the most habitable location, where you could survive 1.5 hours. Mars offered the most familiar environment, but still deadly in the long term. The gas giants were true nightmares, while Venus proved to be the most literal hell in the solar system. But here's the impressive truth. Even with all this hostility, scientists like Elon Musk believe that colonizing other planets is essential for our species' survival. Plans are already in development for Martian cities with millions of inhabitants by 2050, floating habitats on Venus, and underground colonies on Mercury. The question that remains is, would you have the courage to be one of the first space colonists, knowing the deadly risks we discovered today? If this video left you fascinated by the mysteries of space, leave that like to help the channel grow, and subscribe so you don't miss our next content about the most impressive secrets of the universe. Click on the video that's appearing on your screen to delve deeper and deeper into incredible knowledge. The discoveries will surprise you even more. Until the next space adventure, everyone.